Hi, welcome to Well Rounded Momma's YouTube channel. Thanks for joining us. My name is Sherry and I'm joined by Emily, and we're both home birth midwives in the Las Vegas area. Today our video is all about what to do when there's a change in your birth team. This happens occasionally. There's so many things. We're humans. Sometimes we could be sick or be at another birth or be out of town, or something can happen and there's a change in your care team. And I think that's really difficult because people put so much investment into their birth about choosing the individuals that are going to be there. And so what do you do, and what are some ways that you can get back on that? I would say the first thing for me would be prenatally making sure you know what your backup system looks like. Did you have the opportunity to meet them? Making sure that you understood that there was some fluidity or ability that your doula or your midwife or your doctor may or may not be able to be there. What do you think, Emily, would be such a good questions to ask your care provider?
I really think something that I find that I get asked a lot is always about the number of births, and that's not always helpful because anybody can go at any time. So more about how many births have they been able to attend with their caseload. If it's an OBGYN or even a midwife or a doula, usually we take a specific amount of clients a month, and sometimes that fluctuates. But I think the more you take on, sometimes then you're at a higher percentage of maybe needing to call on your backup. Or if you're planning on going out of town that month and you're taking your same amount of births, what does that look like? So maybe asking more specific of a question instead of how many you're taking on or how many you have around that same due date to what days are you going to be available, and how many have you been able to consistently make in the past, or how many times have you relied on a backup for your care?
I think that's great. From the standpoint of, I used to take between 8 and 12 deliveries a month pretty regularly, and I never missed them. And then 3 years ago, I limited myself to 6. Since that time, I've had probably 3 incidences where 2 people were in labor at the same time.
Yeah.
You just cannot pick that regardless of how many people. And so even those of us who do limit what we take, there still is the chance and the risk that that will happen. So I do like this question of saying, do you make your deliveries? And I think opening that up to, do you attend your deliveries on weekends, after hours, be specific because most births happen in the middle of the night and the wee hours, weekends. Babies don't really care about a 9 to 5, so they kind of come when they want. And maybe even ask what would make them be unavailable.
For sure. That's a great question.
What would prevent you from attending my delivery? And what is your backup plan if you can't?
Right, and what is the line of communication maybe as well? Because in another scenario, if you're at another birth, that's not we're on purpose not available on a vacation. It's because we're physically incapable of being in 2 places at once. And so knowing, okay, I've met this person before, I'm comfortable with them, I know to call them, what is the plan of action should you be unavailable? Or I think having clear communication on the front end sets up that expectation of, if that occurs, we have a easy system to work.
Yeah.
It's not an uncomfortable thing. It's something that is flowing and you feel supported during the change.
And I think at Well Rounded Momma, we've had to try and implement things that allow midwifery to be sustainable, meaning that we also get to take breaks, but that our clients still receive that continuity of care. And so this year, in the past, we've always been we all back for each other. But this year, we decided to do something different. And that was that we assigned each other partnerships throughout quarters. Depending on your due date month, you know who that secondary midwife is. And you have that ability to meet with them prenatally to get to know them and get to know your team. The other thing that we do is we assign partners that go and assistants that go. And so for us, that helps with continuity, because maybe if I'm at a birth and say you got to know my assistant really well, maybe she'll go be that continuity of care for you, so that a new person stepping in, you still have that same familiar face.
Totally.
And so we're always trying, but I know how shocking it can be. Last week we had a midwife announce that she was going to leave and start her own practice. And I think that felt abrupt for people because you do kind of get nervous when your care team is going to change. I've had clients move here or away from here in the middle of their pregnancy and have to find a new birth team. And I know that that can be nerve-wracking. As far as like my other thoughts about when there's a change to your care team is making sure that part of your care team is your partner or family members, and what are their roles. You know, for me, it's interesting because I have a lot of clients go, well, I chose you, so I know it's going to be great. And I'm always like, oh, that's a lot of pressure. Because I want to be that, and I've worked really hard to have that good reputation and that ability to care well for my clients. However, I want the faith to be put in the process in yourself.
For sure.
My second part of advice outside of asking prenatally would be prepare yourself to feel confident, well-informed, well-educated about birth and what an unmedicated birth looks like.
Totally.
So that in the event there's a change in your care team or your care provider doesn't make it, that you feel really confident in your body's ability and in your partner's ability to support you. Or if it's not your partner, maybe a mother or a mother-in-law or a friend, whomever that looks like, that's going to be available for you, because your care team could potentially change at any time.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. And that applies in all birth scenarios, right? Because it's not always a doula or a midwife that waves the magic wand and makes that labor really easy for you. It's your ability to feel safe and supported and cared for by your entire team and the space that you're in.
I love that. And so for me, if you follow me on any of my social media, the photos I love are the partners and the family members supporting. It's not, even though I rub backs and play with hair and do all of those things, for me, I never want to disrupt this beautiful relationship that the family has, right? This intimate thing that's happening. And so kind of revisiting yourself and seeing, where am I putting all my faith? Am I putting my faith in my care provider, or am I putting my faith in the process? And obviously you need to have a certain level of faith in your care provider. However, there should be like an equal parts to that.
Totally.
Anything else you can think of?
I think if it's like a sudden change, revisiting your birth plan sometimes, or like where you're at in your pregnancy and maybe some things that are coming up for you. At any time, I always ask how I can best support my clients. And so I think a good care provider always wants to make sure that everybody's on the same page and getting the support that they need from that person. And regardless if it's just a change in location or if it's a change in a student or a doula or something that could even be minor sometimes, it makes a big difference. And making sure that they're aware, and you're again revisiting any plans that might then change, or anything that's came up during your pregnancy that might make you revisit some things you thought differently about in the beginning than you do now. That's equally as important, right?
Yeah.
Just revisiting that whole scenario and having those conversations.
And then my last little piece of, I don't want to call it advice, my last little piece to this puzzle would be trust your intuition.
Yeah.
If your intuition is shouting red flags at you or telling you you need to do something, do it. And that could be something as simple as, I had this really cute gal come in today, and she knew her doula was going to be out of town around her due date, but she really loved her doula. But her gut told her, don't hire her because she's not going to be there and you're not going to be happy with the backup scenario. And that's exactly what happened. Was she went into labor while that doula was out of town, and at the end of the day, she really regretted not just hiring somebody else and forming that relationship. I would say the last piece of this puzzle is listen to your gut.
Yeah.
Whenever I have a pregnant person come into my office and they express to me something that they're feeling, even if they don't feel like there's a reason why they feel that way, I always listen to them, because the truth is you know what you need and you know what you're being directed to do. And this is just parenting decisions that you're making. And so trust your gut, trust that intuition, and choose a team that is a good fit for you, for your lifestyle, and for your birth outcomes. That would be my advice on what do you do when there's a change to your care team. And so thanks for joining us. We are now releasing videos every other week because we've been very busy. And so we will see you in 2 weeks. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Okay. All right, ready? It's the end of day. We're fine.
Yes.
We're
You
great.
do great.
My
For
little
tips and tricks
whatever it is
for hiring a midwife.
would, oh gosh, it just left me. Sorry, Rebecca.
Because you're like, shut up, we didn't do this in one shot.
Damn it. Oh my gosh. Oh,